When you are gonna like tender your resignation with the label, did you feel almost like?
Of course, I was like, am I sure that going something that's sort of new to leave something that's, you know, sort of established, or not sort of, is established. So yeah, it's just like, do I stay safe or do I just go? But I just feel like it was something new. I just wanted to go into a new venture, and it just felt right. And then obviously they playing the new music, which was the first time I heard of Angel, and I was just like, wow, I've not heard something like this in a long. It was like fresh. It was really fresh to me. I remember at the time I went to go and I think it was at like Jazz Cafe. I went to go and see him. I was just like, I've heard the music, but you sound exactly how you sound on the record. And I was just like, I just thought he was, because I was like, oh, is he from the States? So I was just, and you know, you just can't get your hand around it. And sometimes I think in the UK, when something is too good, you just think like, well, it can't be from here. And we do that a lot. It's weird. Like, it has to. I think when we're from the UK, it has to feel a bit. It has to feel a bit rustic. It has to feel like a bit.
It can't be polished.
No, it can't be. It can't be. It needs the imperfections for us to be like, all right, cool, I can accept it.
And then I will grow with it.
Yeah.
And I'll put it.
Yeah, it's weird though.
It's a lot more resistance.
Yeah. They don't like something that's like really clean cut, really perfect. They like it to be a bit rough on the edges, they're a bit left. But yeah, the music like that, and the songwriting, most importantly, like the songwriting was of a standards that was the most important. You know, you hear so much nonsense, especially at the time. Everybody was trying to bring something out. Obviously, you had good records.
What year was this then, roughly then?
This was the year. I remember this was the year that Tinie and N-Dubs had the number one, with the number one record.
08, 09.
Yeah, about 08, 09, probably around that time, maybe 10. No,
it must be 08.
Yeah, probably around that time. And I remember actually sitting in label meetings and like just being happy just seeing this in the charts, and like just sitting in the room and just like people just like, how is this happening? And I used to be like, I was just looking for the names, and you're seeing like Chipmunk in like the top 20, and then the next week you see him like in the top 10, and like everyone's thinking, well, how's
so
this?
So building when they surprised, they didn't expect.
Of course.
It was a wild card.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Like obviously the fact that it's coming, it was just literally out of nowhere. They just started to like seep through, and I just thought, this is. Then you just started to see so many different urban. That's what they labeled it, urban. So to started to seep through, and I was happy. I remember at the time that one of the A&Rs was like, oh, you know, I need the Chipmunk record. I was just like, wow, for one of the A&Rs calling me for the Chipmunk record, that's how I knew, like, all right, cool, there's a turnaround. And it was an exciting time. I remember before I left, actually, one of the A&Rs, he came to me, he was like, oh, we've got this new artist in, he's got, you know, decent Twitter, decent Bebo fans, I think it was at the time, MySpace, like, he's from like, I think they said he was from like North London, and I was like, oh, it's like, oh, this guy called Tinie, I think he's really cool. I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I actually remember him coming in, and like, everyone was like, oh, that's Tinie Tempah. So I think someone sent me a video actually when he did something with, I think it was like the Gorillas or something like that. It was he did like a performance, and it was really sick. Really, I remember seeing like, yeah, this is different, this is really cool. And I remember within the label, even before he came, everyone was like, oh, have you seen this like Tinie guy? This is really exciting.
He actually had, I think he had the Local to Sugar's website. That
right,
really
exactly.
And he had, I think at that point, that's when he kind of like had branded himself, so he was like wearing that hat, so he looked different. Right,
exactly.
He had what they knew they could.
Right, exactly. So, and I remember just leaving just before he got signed, and then hearing like going clubbing, and you hear him pass out, and then you're just like, this is it, like this is the time. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just such a good.
Did you ever feel that you had left too early then, as that? Because that you would have been not the urban guy, but
right, exactly. Yeah, but yeah and no, because I just felt like obviously because I had just met Angel as well, it felt like it felt like the perfect time. Was like, oh, I've left. I've now got myself like an urban artist who was a singer, right? Who's absolutely just like a singer or is a singer. So it's like, cool. This is actually a good time to try and get this kind of act into the market. So yeah, it was cool. It was a cool experience, like working for them. I think it just the experience for that on their side just wasn't there. So I was like, look, like I've got to go, and there was just complications or whatnot. So I was like,
which happens, and I think complications in business happen no matter what the business is.
Absolutely.
It's not like
it's never gonna just go smooth sailing all the way. Like it's not Mary Poppins or Disneyland. It's real life.
So tell me actually what it was like when you actually first met Angel. Because you were talking about Jazz Cafe, but when you first met him, when I first met him, it was, as I said, I remember listening to a particular record. I was just like, okay. When I first met him, like everyone, no, when I first heard it, I was like, Angel. I was like, oh, is that a woman? And I was like, no, it's a guy. And I was like, all right, cool. I was still warm into it, and then I listened to the music. I was like, this is really good. And then I think I caught the end of his performance. I was like, this is really good. And then I think the first time he sort of like really sat down and spoke, or whatever it was, I think is when I was still at the company, and I arranged like a showcase for like different label people to come down. Obviously, little did I know, obviously at the time, that most people already knew him. Obviously, he was part of the Child's Family. Obviously, they had like a documentary and whatnot, so people like already knew of them. So I was like, all right, cool, that's good. So was he a soloist then?
At that point, at that point, he was obviously just Angel on his own. So remember, we organised things like Music Bank, was him, live band, and like just different labels were coming down. It was just like, yeah, this is great. Like I can see it. Obviously, again, the urban thing is doing well, so it's like, look, this makes sense. Do you understand what I mean? So that was just, it was really good just to see him perform and think that was the first time I was like really excited. I was like, I was watching it. I was just like, this is the real deal. Do you understand what I mean? And I've from the beginning till now, do you understand? That's what I've I think that's what you need. I think as a manager, just to have. That's all you need. I think sometimes it's just to have that belief. Once you have that belief, that then becomes your drive. Do you understand what I mean?
As well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just to be able to say, all right, cool. I believe in it. How am we gonna then? How is that belief gonna transcend to people out there? So yeah, I think after a while, as I said, I just decided that we decided we were just gonna leave.
Work together.
Yeah, literally, we was like, right, cool, right, this is not really working. So we all left.
And at that point, it's almost like I'm trying to get it chronologically. So it's almost start, reevaluate, start, reevaluate. In those moments, one, what are your parents saying? Because things are starting to stop. And two, what are you thinking about your own career paths? Because it's starting to stop. And you thinking that I should just maybe say that in my maybe say that island. Because I know you have to believe, but it's stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you do. At the time, you have your doubts. You're just thinking, I've just lost my security. Do you understand what I mean? So it's like, all right, cool. What do you do now, sort of thing? But I just think, I don't know. You just got to have that faith, and you just can't doubt your ability, and you can't doubt the ability of the artist. And if you have that belief, you just know that you can make something out of it. And I just felt like if I work at it, and if I just do certain things in a smart way, I should be able to get something for the artist and something for myself, so that we can move forward. So remember at the time, just going to see certain labels, which was tough at the time. Publishing not as bad, but labels at the time, obviously, because by the time we were coming with Angel, there were already like 4 big names in like, you know, different labels at the time who were about to launch. Do you understand what I mean? So.
And there's always a time, man, you just don't get on a label and go straight away.
Right. And I remember going to labels and they're just like, no, you've lost your window, like that window, that window's gone, and you know, you might have just missed it, sort of thing. But I think, again, just having the faith in the artist, I was just like, look, I know eventually people are gonna be like, all right, cool, we get it. So I just like, cool, let's go away. We went, took them away to Denmark, him in like the writing camp. Like Cass, obviously, he's like his right hand man and whatnot.
So that's was like writing based on the publishing and to try and get placements. Or
yeah, no, not even that. We just like, look, like we know what we have here. We need records. We want to go back to labels and be like, this is.
So it's just kind of get away from the.
Yeah, just get away and just come back and then just focus on the music, focus on the records, because essentially that's what you're selling them. You're selling them records. So we just thought, let's just go away and try and get some records done. Obviously, we thought like, let's put like a little like. Cause I remember we used to go like on like school, like we used to go on like on the road, like do school trips and stuff. Like I remember we used to, me, Angel, probably like 5 of us in like a flipping small Clio, driving up to like all just up and down the UK and just going from Newcastle to Derby to everywhere, just doing.
Out of your own pocket at that time.
Yeah. Just out of our own pocket, just like grinding, man. And we just, and I remember on these trips, like Angel and Cass, they used to just play me these records, and I'm like, these records are crazy. Like, why is nobody hearing that? What are you doing with it? Have you done anything with it? No. I'm like, cool. We need to get it out there. Do you understand what I mean? So that's when we first had like his first like mixtape. What I was involved with, like Patience with a Virtue, that actually CJ Beats mixed for us. Put together, so that was the first sort of thing that we put, and then we started getting a little bit of traction and fans and stuff like that. To, you know, obviously just online. Obviously, because I had the online experience, and then that then started to come.
So you're playing more active role in what's the whole makeup.
Literally everything from
they do the music,
right?
You're building the whole
everything. So from doing the business side, but then as well as looking at the marketing, look at how we're going to get him out there, looking at the online, and obviously, lucky I had that experience already, so it was just like everything was just like clockwork, you know what I mean? So it was just, and obviously had contacts here and there, so someone to write us like a bio, or someone to write us like just like a press release, or just stuff like that, do you know what I mean? That are really
so utilising your network at that point.
Right, absolutely. So I remember just going away, went to Denmark to work with, I think it was Cutfather and Jonas at the time, who had done so many big records, including like some like UK garage with like that Flowers record. You remember, like, you know, they did those records. Obviously, Cholet Amaru. Do you know what I mean? Like just really big records. So went to go and work with them. We met another guy called Lewis Vingding, who had been working with Brandy. So he was just like, he actually did the whole Brandy album. It didn't actually come out, but he did a whole album. Crazy talented guy. So we ended up working with him. Came back. I remember being so tired at the time, and just going for it, literally morning, day and night, just going for it. I remember meeting up with Universal Publishing. And what happened? Yeah, playing them the music, or beforehand playing the music when we come back, just going back and forth like on a weekly basis. That might as well be my office, because I was literally.
So it's like you have something new and you think, okay, I need to take it over.
Yeah, you go there, but then I think what had happened at the time, they were really interested, so they got the guys to come in, work out of their studios and whatnot. Obviously got their bosses and that to see them and whatnot, and then like before you know it, they was like, look, we want to sign you guys. I was like, great, that's fantastic. Like, let's get that rolling.
But before that point, because when you said, so wait, in Sweden or Denmark, financially was tough sometimes.
Of course, it was like Angel would tell you, it was just like when you think about it now, it's funny when you look back at it, but yeah, it was tough, man. When we used to go out there, it used to be literally just so cold that you'd just be thinking, and then the hotels we were staying in, it was just like we're looking at each other like is this life? Like, really, are we gonna stay here, sort of thing? But we was just like, look, we're here for a reason. Literally 4 inches of snow or 5, like just going in the blizzard sort of thing, just going to like and just working on what we have just to eat on a day-to-day basis, and just obviously our main focus being like, look, we know what we want. Like, it might be hard at the moment, because at the time it was hard. And I remember at the time we actually had, before we left the demo, we had an EMI offer, like publishing offer at the time. And then for some reason, obviously because there were so many complications with the management company, it was taking so long to get the previous company. It was taking so long to get back to them. Just before we went to Denmark, EMI was like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to do the deal." So obviously I was like, oh my goodness, and it was just, and I was just like, how am I going to tell? Obviously we're all excited, thinking, right, cool, we're going to go, we're free to do what we've left the company, we're going to go and do what we need to do, come back, and it's just going to be a deal waiting for us, and then we just go and do a record deal. But then having to go there, and I remember that night going to like the guys, their hotel room, like Casa and Angel, and just being like, oh my goodness, like how am I gonna break it to them? Do you know what I mean? And then it's funny because like in the end, they were just like, when I told them, they were like, it's cool, like it's cool. And I wasn't expecting that. I was like, they were gonna.
You want us to they were.
Of course, because you're just thinking you've all left like a kind of a comfortable situation. Obviously, I'm not as experienced. Obviously, all have the finances to know something to make sure they was as comfortable as they were before. Obviously that would have been the main thing to come back to, and then to be like, we don't have that. It's like, obviously for me as well, thinking about my career, like they could have at the time just been like, well, you've taken us out of this situation, or we've all left this situation, but like, thanks for your help, that kind of thing. But they were just like, cool, you know what, this is meant to be. We're gonna go to these studio sessions, we're gonna make the most amazing records, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna absolutely kill it.
Right.
And that's what happened. That's what happened. Like literally got back, sat down with Universal Publishing. They were like, look, this is what's going on. Like we played the records, they said we see the progress, and they were like, cool. Like I met the guy Mark Gell, amazing publisher, like very into the music, very hands-on. Like you don't get many publishers.
They don't actually work sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's my.
I wouldn't say that, but
I'll say, and this is me speaking, that not saying that they don't, but I think publishing like A&R and yours, we seem to sign something, but sometimes there's some publishers who actually will go the extra
amount, and Mark is one of those publishers. Like he will, like we've got that relationship where he call you on a Saturday or a Sunday and vice versa, and you know that he'll pick up and say, oh, we've got this, or what do you think about this? Like he's fully hands-on. Like he really believes in the parallel camp. So like, and they're always pushing us. So he's the one we met, and the ideas that he was throwing at us and whatnot straight away, we knew that. Yeah,
so this
is the person that we need to be with. Yeah. So I think just before we signed the deal, like he put us in with DJ Target and Danny Baker at the time, and that was when, just after Roll Deeper just had a #1 with Jodie Connor, and I was like, look, they need another single, and I think they had a single at the time, and then he was like, I think because just after we signed, so it was like, I think you need to go in the studio with these guys. And then I think one session Angel and Casa went in there. I remember they called me, it was like 45 minutes, and I was like, we're done. And I was just thinking, oh, here we go. Like, what do you mean you're done? It's like, it's 45 minutes, like, yeah, we're done, the session's done, we've written a song. I was like, what do you mean you've written a song? And then I was like, let me speak to Danny. I speak to Danny, Danny's like, yeah. I was like, Dan, is everything cool? He's like, yeah, man, he's like, it sounds like a hit. I was like, what do you mean it sounds like a hit? You've been in there for 45 minutes. And then he was just like, it sounds like a hit. So he got Vicky, the other writer, to come down and sing it. And then, yeah, they'd send it to Glyn. That was at Virgin at the time. It was like, look, Glyn Atkins, at Virgin at the time. He was like, look, I think we got a curveball. And then that's when then I said it to the guys came in the studio, did it, and then obviously then that was green light then became a #1, and it was like, wow, this thing might just be working for us, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? That was a really good that's how it all came together. It was like, right, cool, you know what?
It's organic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was like, look, we're on the right path, and obviously since then we've obviously kept relationships with like Target, and like he's a big supporter of Angel and the guys, and know how talented they are. Danny the same thing, Wiley the same thing. Like, I mean, the whole Roll Deep crew. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and then I remember like, I think a couple of weeks after, like Wiley did something with 1Xtra, just talking about the up and coming UK guys, and he spoke about Angel. He's like, look, this guy is, you know, incredibly talented. So then we started to see different artists as well that started to notice that, you know, that the guys are really talented, and you know how good they were.